So just a couple of days ago, something pretty remarkable happened. It turns out that Nintendo has finally made available, in Japan only, Wii U gamepads sold separately from Wii U consoles. So this is pretty interesting for a couple of reasons. Most notably, the fact that a lot of people have been wondering for a long time if there was ever going to be a point where the gamepads were going to be sold separately from Wii U systems. Way back before the system even launched, sometime in 2012, Nintendo actually, they had their initial kind of reveal event where they discussed the system, the pricing, the official release date, talked about some of the games coming out. They revealed Bayonetta 2, they had Activision show off Call of Duty Black Ops 2, all these good things. And at that time, it was stated by Nintendo that the plan and the idea for the Wii U was that it would be able to support at least 2 gamepads, and some games might be able to do that, which was sort of hinting at the idea that gamepads would be made available separately from the console, basically, to buy just like you might buy any other regular controller for any console. Now, here we are in 2015, just about to be 2016. The Wii U just had its 3rd birthday, and not once have we seen either A, a gamepad sold separately in stores, or B, a game that would even use or require more than one gamepad to be used. So it's definitely interesting when you look at this whole time, none of this stuff had ever come to fruition, but now, just a few days ago, like I said, in Japan, there has been made available a gamepad that is sold separately, available for people to purchase. Apparently, according to IGN, the translated cost in yen comes out to about 104 US dollars, which was probably the price that a lot of us assumed it might be made available for if they were ever going to start selling them separately. It actually seems like a pretty reasonable price. If there were compelling reasons to buy a brand new gamepad, either A, to replace a broken one, or B, because it might be advantageous to have more than one, I think that $100 is like a reasonably fair price. I've talked about how awesome I think the gamepad is. Even though there's probably better things that could have been done with it, I still really love the controller. So I would buy one for that price if there were actual reasons to. Now, one of the weird things about this is it's actually hard to tell from the article that I read on IGN about this if this is actually a Nintendo gamepad product. They refer to it as a Solus gamepad, and Solus to me sounds like it's being used as a brand or like a third-party manufacturer who's making their own version of a gamepad. I can't confirm that, so I may be wrong, and if anyone actually knows the truth of how it's playing out, you can kind of explain it in the comments, but it kind of sounds like it's like a third-party thing, yet IGN was still reaching out to Nintendo specifically to get sort of information on if, out here in the West, are they ever going to make gamepads available separately and yada yada, and Nintendo basically hasn't given an answer and said that there's no confirmed plans yet, but, you know, of course, who knows what that means for the future. All pretty interesting stuff, but what I actually really wanted to discuss is what this could mean for the future of Nintendo, because I feel like it's a really weird time to all of a sudden start making gamepads available to be sold separately when there's no indication that any game coming up soon is going to need that, and there's only indications that the Wii U may not have much life left. Why would we just now start to get gamepads sold separately from Wii U's when we're on the unfortunate cusp of the system's probably demise? Maybe I shouldn't say demise, that sounds a little bit more negative, but basically moving on from the system into the next generation. And I think the answer is pretty simple if you think about it. It's the NX. It really makes me think that the NX is going to utilize gamepads, potentially in a whole brand new way. And, you know, whether or not the NX would be coming with gamepad, I don't really think that that would be the case, and it probably wouldn't be smart. But if the NX is either going to have backwards compatibility and maybe be able to run Wii U games, either physical games or eShop downloadable games, which a lot of people have been theorizing lately, or if it's actually going to need or require the same gamepad available on the Wii U to run a lot of games on the NX, then it would make sense for gamepads to start being sold separately, especially now. They're kind of almost like they're trying to get in early on the idea of selling people new gamepads and saying, hey, you're going to need some gamepads to be able to use with your NX pretty soon. You'd have to think that whereas the Wii U may struggle to run 2 gamepads at the same time for one game, the NX is probably being designed, if this is true, of course, this is all just my personal theory, but the NX is probably being designed to be able to support more than one gamepad very, very well. I mean, you'd have to think that there's going to be a lot more going on under the hood of the NX. I mean, we basically know that. There's rumors of exactly how much power the system's going to have. It may be not as much as some of us are thinking. It may be way, way more than what some of us are thinking. But what we've learned with the Wii U is that the more capable a machine actually is, the easier it is to run 1, 2, or maybe 3 or 4 gamepads at the same time. That's part of the reason we haven't seen any games that use more than one gamepad, and why Nintendo probably never made them available until just now, is because we've learned that the system can't really run 2 gamepads. I mean, just running 1 gamepad, depending on what it's doing, of course, can actually affect how the game looks and feels and plays. A good example is the upcoming Star Fox, where because that game is running the game in a whole different view, you know, like in real time basically on the gamepad, it can affect things like the frame rate, the performance, what the visuals can look like without a lot of time to fine-tune it, because it's running so much on one screen and then the exact same thing from a whole different perspective on another screen in your hand, and that actually does affect how the system is basically running, how much it has to be, you know, how much information it has to crunch and process out, you know, all at the same time, which was something that I never really thought about until it started to come out from Nintendo when they were talking about developing certain games using the gamepad. So the NX, we know, is of course going to be much more powerful than the Wii U. Is it being designed to use the gamepad at all? And if so, is it being designed to very easily run more than one gamepad at the same time? And I kind of think that there might be something to this. You know, again, it is only my theory, but I'm not going to lie, I feel pretty good about my theory. It just seems like the only possible reason that Nintendo would slowly start to make these gamepads available. And I do think it's just that. I think that it's slowly making them available. They've started in Japan. We don't really know why they're selling them separately yet. We just know that here they are. They're about $100 US. I think it was 12,000 yen. You know, here's your gamepad. You can now buy them separately. But why? I mean, why would anybody? There's no game that uses it. And again, it certainly seems like the Wii U doesn't have more than another solid year on the market before it's probably going to be phased out by Nintendo, because its next system should be coming out around that time. So why start selling these now? I really think that it's because the NX is going to use them. And let's just say it's just for Wii U games, for backwards compatibility. A, that would be great because we would know for sure that backwards compatibility would be available. And B, that's still a great value. I mean, you can buy the NX without the gamepad, without the need to do it, and it's like, hey, there you go. Here's your NX. You don't need a gamepad. You don't have to play your Wii U games on it. But if you buy your NX and it's like, man, I can go back and buy Smash Brothers and Mario Kart, and, you know, I'm trying to think of other games that would actually use it. Like, you know, Zombie U or Deus Ex, all these other games I've talked about, Pikmin 3, and you want to buy them. Or if Nintendo, like some people have theorized too, and I actually like this theory, if they start rebranding Wii U games with like NX, you know, boxes and NX versions that maybe have all DLC and stuff, you know, in them, but it's still the Wii U game that would run just as well on a Wii U, people would be buying those, but still needing a gamepad potentially to play a lot of those games. So here you go. Here's your gamepad. It's the exact same thing that's happened with the Wii U compared to the Wii. Whereas the Wii U came out, and it didn't come with a Wii remote, but it did come with the sensor bar. And because you can use, you know, Wii games and virtual console games in the eShop and stuff using a Wii remote, you can just still go out and buy Wii remotes to use on your Wii U. You can buy the last generation controller to work specifically on your new generation controller. And I just think that, you know, long story short, I feel like making gamepads available now is basically preparing to do the same thing with their next system, with whatever the NX turns out to be. I think that this is a very, very good sign that backwards compatibility is going to be coming with the NX. Maybe some games that are made for the NX are also meant to use the gamepad, and it's a good sign that we can start, you know, we can continue to play our current great Wii U games on the next generation system, and it's really interesting to me to think that. I feel like that's what's going on. The real question would be is if Wii remotes would still be usable on the NX, and honestly, if Wii games would still be, I'm getting confused. If Wii U games could still run on the NX, then I would think for sure Wii games could still run on the NX, which means if you can use a gamepad, you can probably use a Wii remote. And that would be pretty crazy, but also pretty cool for Nintendo to be thinking 2 generations back to all those games and how those games control with their unique controllers and make them usable and available and relevant to that new system not even including all the kooky new things that the NX itself is going to do. So who knows? Nintendo has a really good grasp on how to make their products last for a long time and feel relevant to the gamers who actually play and support them. So it'd be crazy to think that we'd have an NX system in 2016 or 2017 that would still be relevantly using the technology and the controllers from their 2006 system, from a decade-old system 2 generations prior. We will still be keeping all our Wii remotes and our gamepads and all these games from all these systems because they still make sense to play on this new machine 2 machines down the road. And that's pretty cool, That's a really good way to sell the value and the longevity of your product, to its consumers and to us, the gamers. I think that that's pretty awesome. But again, it's all kind of my theory. None of this could turn out to be true. This is just me guessing and wondering. But I wanted to talk about it and pose it to you guys and see if maybe the theory makes sense to you, if you agree with it. Maybe you didn't think about it before, but now does it make sense to you? Or do you think that I'm as wrong as I could actually turn out to be? I mean, who knows? But it's fun to talk about. It's fun to think about. Why else would the gamepad all of a sudden be available, made separately? I mean, who would even buy it? Why would you even buy it with no games available? The only reason you would buy it currently would be to replace one that's broken, where it's faster and cheaper to just buy a brand new one for $100 than it would be to have to go through Nintendo service and all these different things. Apparently, you can buy refurbished gamepads through Nintendo for like $140, I think. Something else that IGN said in this article, so I'm going to try to remember to link that below. But, anyway, it's a curious case. What's going on with the gamepads? Maybe it means nothing. Maybe it's as simple as it seems. They are just selling them separately to do it. Maybe it's that simple. But I don't really think so. We know Nintendo. They think ahead and they think outside the box. And to me, I like my theory. I feel like it's very likely that this is planning to make the gamepads usable on the NX in a couple of different ways. So there we go. That's what I'm thinking about that there. What do you guys think about this news? Do you think it means what I'm theorizing? Do you think that it's none of the above? I definitely want to hear you guys talk about it. What do you think? Thanks, of course, for tuning in. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I'll catch you guys next time on another video.